Today we spotlight 20 women reshaping contemporary art in 2025. Each artist earned a place here by changing how we see art through new ideas, bold risks, powerful exhibitions, and real influence in the market and the museum. From mirror rooms to daring performances, these women are defining our moment. Lubaina Himid. Lubaina Himid was born in Zanzibar and grew up in England. She is an artist, a teacher, and a curator. For decades, she has worked to bring overlooked stories into the light. Her art uses bright color, collage, and found objects to tell histories of the African diaspora that have been hidden or forgotten. Himid often arranges cutout figures, everyday objects, and bold color blocks into scenes that feel like pages from a history book rewritten. Works such as Naming the Money and Jelly Mold. Pinks and greens mix research with play. She connects archives, theater, and craft to shape new stories about community and identity. She has a long record of teaching and curating, and she helped shape a generation of Black British artists. Winning the Turner Prize in 2017 brought more attention to her work and to the histories she highlights. Recently, she has had a solo survey at Tate Liverpool and is set to represent Britain at the Venice Biennale in 2026, moves that underline how central her voice has become. Himid's art is both joyful and political. It asks viewers to remember, but it also invites celebration. Her colors and images make history feel present and immediate. When you look at a Lubaina Himid piece, notice how objects and figures speak together. Let the bright shapes guide you into stories that were once quiet and now demand a place in our shared memory. Ay Tjoe. Ay Tjoe is a painter from Bandung, Indonesia. She began as a printmaker and later moved into painting. Her canvases feel like dreams, tangled roots, soft figures, and flowing lines that pull your eye like a river. Her work is often abstract, but it carries deep feeling. She paints about philosophy, sorrow, joy, and the fragile ties that bind human life. Ay Tjoe uses color and gesture to build emotional landscapes. Her brushwork can look delicate or wild. She often layers paint so surfaces breathe and change when you move around them. Some works suggest bodies or plants, others feel like thoughts made visible. Her piece Seeds in the Air and recent diptychs like Blue Cryptobiosis are good examples. They hold both pain and beauty in the same space. She has shown in Asia and Europe and had a major retrospective in Kanazawa in 2018. Her exhibitions at places like the Royal Academy and Asia Society helped bring her voice to a wider audience. Critics praise how she blends local traditions with universal themes. Her art can feel spiritual, and it often asks us to slow down and reflect. As the art world grows more global, Ay Tjoe is one of the artists helping to widen what painting can say. She brings together Islamic motifs, local stories, and modern ideas in work that is both personal and universal. When you stand before one of her paintings, let your eyes follow the lines, trace the marks, let the colors guide you into a quiet place where meaning unfolds like a slow breath. Toyin Ojih Odutola. Toyin Ojih Odutola was born in Ife, Nigeria, and lives and works in New York. She makes drawings and paintings that look like maps of skin and memory. Her work is careful, layered, and full of small marks that add up into rich, textured surfaces. When you first see one of her pieces, you might be drawn close to read the lines. Then you step back and feel the whole scene as a single grand image. Ojih Odutola often builds stories on the page. She creates imagined families, noble lineages, or worlds where histories and identities meet. She mixes charcoal, ink, pastel, and paint. She also uses collage and pattern. These techniques let her move between detail and drama, the close human touch and the larger quiet story behind it. Two of her well-known projects are A Matter of Fact and The Firm. In these series, she used many layers to remake portraiture. She shows people who are both private and regal. The faces and hands in her work carry memory. Small details, a folded hand, the texture of cloth, a tiny background object, tell us more than a single glance can hold. Museums have taken notice. She had a solo show at MoMA PS1 in 2018 and a major museum survey in 2022. Recently, she opened a show at Kunsthalle Basel, and collectors are watching closely. Her market is growing, but what makes her work powerful is the feeling it holds, identity, histories of colonialism, and the quiet dignity of her figures. When you look at Toyin Ojih Odutola's drawings, move slowly. Read the marks like handwriting. Let one small detail lead you into the whole scene. Her work asks you to imagine lives that might not be recorded in history books and to feel how those lives are both fragile and grand. That is where her art lives, close up and far away, private and universal at the same time. Marlene Dumas. Marlene Dumas is one of the most powerful voices in contemporary painting today. Born in Cape Town, South Africa, and now based in Amsterdam, her work stands out for its raw emotion, psychological depth, and painterly freedom. Dumas paints people, but not in a traditional portrait sense. Her figures are loose, atmospheric, and often haunting. Using watery brushstrokes and pale washes of color, she captures not just the physical form, but the inner emotional states of her subjects. Many of her works explore childhood, identity, vulnerability, and the human face in moments of pain, reflection, or intensity. There's an eerie stillness in many of her paintings that lingers with the viewer long after. Her impact on the art world is massive. In 2023, her painting Miss January, created in 1997, sold for a record-breaking $13.6 million at Christie's, making her the most expensive living female painter at auction. She's also received countless accolades throughout her career, including the prestigious Hasselblad Award in 2017. Dumas has had major retrospectives in leading institutions such as the Tate, MoMA, and the Stedelijk Museum, and her works are part of nearly every top museum collection worldwide. If you're looking for a living artist who can paint the invisible weight of memory, loss, and emotion, Marlene Dumas is it. Her works aren't just portraits, they're psychological landscapes. Jenny Saville. Jenny Saville was born in Cambridge and studied at the Glasgow School of Art, but she carved her name into the history of painting by doing something many wouldn't dare. She put the raw, unfiltered female body right at the center of contemporary art. Her style, massive, physical, and unapologetically honest. Saville paints the body, her own and others, in ways that break away from the polished, idealized forms we often see in art and media. Thick brushstrokes, stretched flesh, distorted anatomy. But not for shock value, this is about truth. Her work exposes the realness of skin, weight, and presence. She paints what it feels like to be in a body, not just what it looks like. Back in the 1990s, she rose to fame as part of the Young British Artist movement, and her large-scale self-portrait Propped from 1992 became a defining image of that era. In 2018, that same painting sold for around $12 million, breaking the auction record for a living female artist at the time. That number didn't just make headlines, it cemented her place in art history. Jenny Saville's career has included major exhibitions around the world. In 2018, the Scottish National Gallery of Modern Art hosted a full retrospective called Now, Jenny Saville, showing just how far her work had come since those early controversial days. Some of her other well-known pieces, like Plan, Branded, and those raw, monumental portraits of the human figure, have become iconic representations of vulnerability, power, and what it means to see someone, not just look at them. Saville has never chased beauty in the traditional sense. What she offers is far more interesting: a confrontation, a mirror, a body that speaks louder than words. Doris Salcedo. Doris Salcedo is from Colombia. She makes sculptures and installations that hold memory. Her work gives shape to pain and loss. She often uses everyday objects, chairs, shoes, clothes, and turns them into quiet monuments. These objects become witnesses to stories that were silenced. One of her best-known works is Shibboleth. In a big museum, she made a long crack in the floor. The crack felt like a wound in the building. It asked visitors to notice lines that separate people. Her work does not shout. It opens a slow space for thinking. Another work filled fences with suitcases and jackets. Those objects stood for people who vanished or who were forced to leave. Salcedo hides or wraps things. She sometimes covers an object with fabric or concrete. Hiding makes the absence felt more clearly. Salcedo's pieces often refer to political violence, but she speaks without slogans. She makes quiet places to remember. People stand in her rooms and slow down. They look and they listen. That stillness becomes part of the art. In Colombia and around the world, viewers come to her exhibitions to reflect. Museums in cities like Mexico City and Paris have shown her work recently, and people say her shows are moving. Her art acts like a public memory. It asks us to hold space for those who suffered. Salcedo's method is simple but powerful. use familiar things to tell hard stories. That choice makes her work personal and very human. Critics and viewers call her one of the most important sculptors from Latin America. She has won top prizes and changed how people think about mourning in art. Mona Hatoum. Mona Hatoum makes work that feels both beautiful and uneasy. She grew up in Beirut and later moved to London. Her art often returns to themes of exile, conflict, and the home. She takes ordinary objects, tables, lights, rugs, and changes them. The result looks familiar but also strange and tense. Hatoum might hang a light like a cage or make a table look like it is made from razor wire. These shifts make you see the object in a new way. The everyday becomes a symbol of danger or fragility. Her installations can fill a room so you feel surrounded by the idea. That experience is part of her craft. Her work is careful and poetic. She mixes beauty with threat. Critics praise how she balances elegance and menace. That balance opens space for reflection. Viewers often find her rooms haunting. They feel uneasy, then thoughtful. Hatoum's art asks how places and people change under stress. She has shown widely at major museums and big biennales. Recent touring shows have drawn strong interest. Her voice matters because she makes political and personal stories feel close and human. Her pieces let us sense what it feels like to be displaced or to live where danger may be near. Yoko Ono. Yoko Ono makes art out of simple actions and small instructions. Her work began in the 1960s with the Fluxus movement. She wrote short, clear instructions in a book called Grapefruit. These were not just words on a page. They were invitations. She asked people to do small acts, open a window, cut a cloth, imagine peace. Those tiny acts became performance and thinking. One famous piece, cut piece, invited audience members to cut away pieces of her clothing while she sat still on stage. The work felt fragile and powerful at once. It asked questions about vulnerability, consent, and who holds the power in a room. Ono's work often turns a private act into a shared moment. Over decades, she has worked across music, performance, and installation. She makes sound pieces, films, and participatory events. She has used simple materials to reach large ideas: peace, love, the body, and creativity. Her voice in art is gentle but insistent. She believes small acts can change how people think and relate. In recent years, the world has renewed interest in her early works. Museums revisit those simple instructions and find they still matter. Her ideas about participation and care feel fresh to younger audiences who want to make art that connects. Tracey Emin. Tracey Emin makes art like a private letter left open. Her work is honest and very personal. She uses many materials: neon lights, sewing, painting, and installation. Emin puts her life in front of the viewer. That courage to be open is her power. One of her most famous works is My Bed. In a gallery, she showed her unmade bed with sheets, clothes, and objects around it. People saw it and felt both shocked and moved. Emin does not hide her feelings. That rawness is the point. Emin first rose to fame with the young British artists in the 1990s. Since then, she has continued to make new work. She uses text in neon to say short, honest lines about life. She paints and draws too, and her brushwork can be quick and intense. Critics sometimes argue with her, but many say her bravery has helped other artists find their truth. Her recent projects include public works and large shows. She uses simple language in art to get straight to the heart. When you watch a Tracey Emin film or look at her piece, allow yourself to feel. Don't try to arrange everything into neat ideas. Emin's work often feels messy because life is messy. That mess becomes beautiful when you let it be. Cecily Brown. Cecily Brown is a British-born painter who has made a big name for herself in New York, where she now lives and works. Her art stands right at the edge of figuration and abstraction, which means her paintings feel alive, full of movement and emotion, yet they never fully reveal what's going on. They tease the viewer. If you look long enough, you start to see bodies, faces, gestures, but then they disappear into a swirl of thick brushstrokes and messy beauty. Brown studied at the Slade School of Fine Art in London. In the late 90s, she moved to New York, and her career took off after her breakout solo show in 1997. Her timing couldn't have been better. The art world was ready for a new voice, and Cecily Brown brought something bold, raw, and very physical. Her paintings are often described as erotic, but it's not about being literal. It's about energy, desire, chaos. The paint itself seems to vibrate with life. One of her most famous pieces, Suddenly Last Summer from 1999, sold for $6.78 million at Sotheby's in 2018. That painting is a perfect example of her style. It's large, gestural, abstract, but also deeply human. It's not clear what exactly is happening in the scene, but you feel like something is. That's her magic. Cecily Brown has shown at some of the most respected galleries and institutions around the world, including Paula Cooper and Gagosian, and recently a major exhibition at the Barnes Foundation. She's influenced a generation of younger painters who admire how she mixes chaos with control and how she reclaims the expressive power of oil painting in a world obsessed with digital media. In many ways, Cecily Brown proves that painting is still relevant, still messy, still sexy, still full of questions. She reminds us that a canvas doesn't need to be clean or quiet to be powerful. It can be wild, it can be alive. Amy Sherald. Amy Sherald paints portraits that feel calm and proud. She uses bright flat backgrounds and paints skin tones in soft gray. This choice makes her figure stand out and feel timeless. Sherald became widely known after painting Michelle Obama's official portrait, but her work goes far beyond that single image. In her portraits, people sit or stand with quiet strength. Sherald chooses everyday subjects and gives them presence. Her work removes flashy background details so the viewer focuses on the person. Small gestures, the tilt of a head, the placement of hands, become powerful statements about identity and dignity. Her style also plays with color and pattern. Patterns in clothing or fabric add story, but they never overpower the sitter. Sherald's portraits often invite the viewer to imagine the life beyond the image. Her work celebrates Black femininity and the ordinary power of everyday people. When you watch an Amy Sherald painting, pause. Let the figure hold your attention. Notice how the simple background lifts the subject into view. Her portraits ask us to see people fully and respectfully. They remind us that portraiture can honor quiet strength and make the ordinary feel important. Njideka Akunyili Crosby. Njideka Akunyili Crosby paints scenes that feel like family albums. Born in Nigeria and working in Los Angeles, she mixes paint, photographs, magazine clippings, and patterns to build layered images. Her work shows life between two places, the home she remembers and the life she lives now. Look closely at a Njideka painting and you will see small familiar things. A patterned cloth, a TV in the background, a hand resting on a knee. These details join together like notes in a private song. She often places family, friends, and daily objects into scenes that are rich with memory. The layers create depth. Some parts are painted, other parts are photographic transfers. This patchwork makes the image feel like a lived room. Her subjects are tender and complex. She shows migration, love, and the way cultures meet in the body and the home. Museums have shown her widely and collectors pay attention, but the heart of her work is emotional truth. Her paintings ask viewers to slow down and enter a private space. When you view a Njideka Akunyili Crosby piece, move your eyes across the layers. Read the collage like a story. Let the small objects lead you into the lives she paints. Her art makes personal history visible and beautiful, and it asks us to honor the everyday moments that hold whole lives. Shirin Neshat. Shirin Neshat makes work about exile, gender, and belonging. Born in Iran and based in the United States, she builds powerful photographs, videos, and films. Many of her images show women in veils or men in empty spaces. She often adds Persian script on faces and bodies to mix words with image. Her video works pair song, voice, and moving image to create deep emotional stories. 2 early videos placed music against images of divided communities, and the result was haunting and memorable. Her films explore what it means to live between two worlds, tradition and change, exile and home. The images are beautiful and full of tension. Neshat asks how history shapes a person's body and voice. Her work is both political and intimate. In recent years, she has moved into digital forms and immersive installations, but the core stays the same, a focus on human lives shaped by culture and conflict. When you watch a Shirin Neshat film, listen to the sound and let the images breathe. The combination of voice, text, and image reaches past facts to feeling. Her art makes experience visible and asks us to care about people whose stories cross borders. Kara Walker. Kara Walker tells hard stories with simple shapes. She cuts figures from black paper and places them on white walls. Those silhouettes look like old shadow puppets, but their scenes are sharp and shocking. Walker uses this style to talk about race, violence, and power in American history. Her images often echo the past, scenes from the antebellum South, moments of cruelty and control. The flat black shapes remove detail but keep the story's force. This stark contrast makes the scenes feel urgent and raw. One of her most talked about works was a huge sugar sculpture that pointed to labor and exploitation. Her art can be beautiful but also deeply troubling. Walker's work asks people to look at painful truths. She does not give easy answers. Instead, she holds up images that force conversation. People react strongly. Some feel anger, others feel sorrow. And that reaction is part of the work's power. Her installations often fill rooms and make viewers move through the story like a play. When you meet a Kara Walker piece, let yourself feel uneasy. Notice how the simple silhouette brings complicated history into a single, striking moment. Her art is a reminder that the past still lives in the present and that images can help us face what we would rather ignore. Cindy Sherman, USA. From targets to self-portraits, our next artist is the brilliant American photographer Cindy Sherman. Since the 1970s, she has been challenging our ideas of identity and female representation with her photographic self-portraits. In her iconic series Untitled Film Stills, Sherman photographed herself dressed up as different female stereotypes from old Hollywood films: the femme fatale, the damsel in distress, the heartbroken lover. But here's the twist: she never titles the images, forcing us to create the narrative ourselves. She's not a model in these photographs. She's the artist, the makeup artist, the hairstylist, and the director, creating a powerful critique of how women are portrayed in media. Her work has inspired countless artists and continues to be relevant today. Cindy Sherman's art is a testament to the power of a single image to question everything we think we know. Jenny Holzer. Jenny Holzer makes words into public art. She takes short phrases and places them where people do not expect to see poetry, on LED signs, stone benches, billboards, and building walls. Her messages can be blunt, funny, angry, or sad. They sit in the city and interrupt the normal flow of life. That is her gift. She turns reading into a moment of thought. Holzer began with small printed texts and grew into large light installations. Her early series, called Truisms, put short ideas in public places so anyone could read them. Later she used flashing lights and projections. At night her words glow across plazas and streets. The lines are simple, but they land hard. They ask questions about power, war, pain, and the life we live together. Her art moves between the gallery and the street. You might see a Holzer sentence on a museum wall and the same sentence on a city sign. That movement makes the work democratic. Anyone can meet it. Recently, she has also worked with paintings and collaborations with galleries, but words remain her main tool. In a time of constant information, her short lines cut through noise. When you see a Jenny Holzer work, stop and read it twice. Let the plain language sink in. Notice how the same phrase might feel different on a marble bench than on a neon display. Her art reminds us that language is not just for telling stories. It can shape how we see our cities and our lives. Holzer asks us to pay attention. Her shortest lines can change how we feel for a moment, and sometimes for much longer. Lynette Yiadom-Boakye. Lynette Yiadom-Boakye paints people who are not real, and yet they feel very true. Her subjects are imagined figures, men and women who seem to belong to another time or to a dream. She paints them in oil with calm colors and soft light. The faces are quiet. The mood is gentle. Her paintings do not tell a story out loud. They invite you to imagine one. Yiadom-Boakye often works from memory and imagination rather than from photography. She builds portraits slowly, using color and form to create mood. The compositions feel timeless. There is no clear date or place. That choice lets the paintings feel universal. The figures hold space, they breathe. Her work celebrates Black subjects without tying them to a single history. The people in her paintings are free to be complex, private, and full of possibility. That approach changes what portraiture can do. Instead of capturing a fact, she captures a feeling. Museums around the world show her work, and critics praise how she gives dignity and mystery to her figures. Her brushwork is often loose and confident. She paints backgrounds that fade into color so the figure stands forward. That calm setting makes the subject feel alive and present. When you film Lynette Yiadom-Boakye's paintings, use slow camera moves. Start on the face and then let the shot drift to hands, clothing, and background. Give listeners time to imagine a life for the figure. Her work asks a gentle question: who is this person and what might their story be? Beatriz Milhazes. If you've ever looked at a painting and felt pure joy from just the colors alone, there's a good chance you are looking at a Beatriz Milhazes. Born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Beatriz brings the spirit of her country into every canvas. The rhythm of samba, the energy of carnival, the layers of history, and the lushness of nature. Her paintings are bright, bold, and full of movement, but they're not random. They're carefully built, layer by layer, using a method that's all her own. She actually paints each shape on a sheet of plastic, lets it dry, and then transfers it onto the canvas like a collage. It's almost like printmaking, but with the feel of painting. That process gives her work this beautiful, smooth texture and a sense of organized chaos. Her style is abstract, but you can often spot repeating shapes, spirals, flowers, circles, geometric patterns, all layered in ways that feel both decorative and deeply cultural. She draws inspiration from Brazilian craft, colonial architecture, Baroque art, and even modernist painters like Matisse, but somehow her work is unmistakably her own. Beatriz is one of the most important painters in Latin America today. Her work has been shown in top museums around the world, MoMA, the Guggenheim, the Fondation Cartier in Paris, and collectors have taken notice too. Her art doesn't try to be difficult or mysterious. It's about beauty, culture, and color. It's about finding richness in life, not just in what we see, but in what we feel. If you love color and believe that painting should lift your spirit, Beatriz Milhazes is an artist worth knowing. Mehretu. Mehretu was born in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 1970 and emigrated to the US with her family during the political unrest of the late 1970s. That early displacement, being caught between cultures, borders, and systems of power, is something that's deeply woven into her work. Her paintings are not easy to explain with words. They're dense, layered, and sprawling. They look like city maps colliding with weather charts, architectural drawings, graffiti, and violent erasure. But they're not chaotic, they're structured chaos. Every mark has a purpose. Her work captures the tension of modern life: migration, war, climate, protest, collapse, and also the possibility of rebuilding. Julie doesn't paint what the world looks like. She paints how the world feels, a hurricane of systems and energy, an abstract record of events, movement, and ideology. Her canvases pull from global sources, but the result is always uniquely her own. Over the past 2 decades, she's had solo shows at the Whitney, LACMA, and the Guggenheim, and in 2021, she became one of the few Black women artists to have a full career retrospective at the Whitney Museum. But her significance isn't just institutional, it's also financial. In 2023, Mehretu made history. Her painting, Walkers with the Dawn and Morning, sold for $10.74 million at Sotheby's, New York, setting the highest auction record for an African-born artist in history. Just a month before that, her 2001 diptych Untitled sold for $9.32 million in Hong Kong. These sales are not just numbers, they're signals that the world is finally recognizing the scale, complexity, and importance of Julie Mehretu's work. Today, she's not just an artist, she's a global force, shaping how the art world thinks about abstraction, history, identity, and the possibilities of painting itself. Marina Abramović. Marina Abramović makes art out of time and presence. Her work is performance you watch with your whole body. For decades, she has tested how long the human body and mind can hold still, feel pain, trust another person, or simply wait. In the 1970s and 80s, she did endurance pieces that asked people to stay with the moment. Some performances were quiet, others were hard to watch. One of her most famous pieces came in 2010 when she sat silently at a museum table and invited anyone to sit across from her. The work was called The Artist is Present. People waited for hours for a few minutes of eye contact. That silence, that act of looking, became its own kind of conversation. Abramović's performances are not tricks. They make real space for emotion and truth. She uses her body to ask questions about trust, memory, and the limits of attention. Watching her work can feel intense because it asks you to be fully present. She often brings the audience into the piece, making strangers part of the art. Her work has moved beyond live performances. She teaches and collaborates with younger artists. She has also explored new forms like virtual reality and film to reach wider audiences, but the core idea stays the same: art that asks people to slow down and meet each other honestly. Critics and audiences value Abramović because she shows how simple acts, standing, sitting, looking, can hold great meaning. Her performances do not promise easy answers. They offer a place to feel and to think. Her art is a reminder that presence itself can be powerful, that being there fully changes what it means to see and be seen. Yayoi Kusama. Yayoi Kusama is one of the most recognizable names in contemporary art. Born in Matsumoto, Japan, and now based in Tokyo, Kusama's world is one of repetition, obsession, and boundlessness. Her work is instantly recognizable: polka dots, pumpkins, and hypnotic infinity net canvases that seem to go on forever. She first gained international attention in the 1960s, but it was her 1993 presentation for Japan at the Venice Biennale that cemented her place on the global stage. Since then, she's had major retrospectives at MoMA, Tate Modern, the Centre Pompidou, and even her own museum in Tokyo opened in 2017. Her immersive infinity mirror rooms have become global attractions, drawing record-breaking crowds from Los Angeles to Tokyo. Her paintings, especially the infinity nets, are deeply personal. Each loop and dot reflects a lifetime of meticulous labor and introspection, and the market has responded in kind. Her infinity net paintings sold for nearly $11 million at auction, making her one of the highest-selling living female artists in the world. Even in her 90s, Kusama continues to produce, exhibit, and influence generations of artists and audiences around the world. Her art invites you to lose yourself, to disappear into repetition and re-emerge with a sense of wonder. Thanks for watching. These 20 women show how bold ideas, risk, and care are reshaping art today. Which artist moved you most? Drop their names in the comments. I'll make a deeper video for the most requested, and also if you feel I missed any name, kindly let me know in the comments. If you liked this, hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss new deep dives. My name is Johnson Ocheja. I'll see you in the next one.